you enjoyed. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce to you Sophia. So Sophia and I met on actually at a networking event, and the great thing about where we are in our current situation at the moment with being locked away at home is a lot of these networking events have gone online, so we do them on Zoom. So Sophia lives in Sydney, I live up on the Gold Coast, and we just happened to have gone along to a BX networking event online, and we got paired off together to in a private room to have a chat and introduce each other, and found we had a whole lot in common. So she's in digital marketing, so am I, and she's got some really interesting ideas, and she works at a really interesting business called Attention Experts, and she would probably be more on the integrator side of things than the entrepreneur side of things, because she's dealing in data, and data is all about getting things finished, getting things to the end, and making sure you've got something to measure your business success with. So her official title is she is was it manager of strategic partnerships, and the attention experts, they help businesses to learn how to use social media data and for their campaigns, and also help businesses with running their social media and other campaigns as well. So at this point in the evening, it's my pleasure to be able to turn over to Sophia to come and introduce herself and to share some of her wisdom with us tonight. So welcome, Sophia.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. And thanks, Nick, for having me. It's such a pleasure to actually meet everybody. The thing about, as Nick mentioned before, the thing about virtual networks or virtual meetups is you get so much more, I guess, scope in terms of meeting people from all over the place, really. Whether it's Australia locally, in different states, or whether it's international. So it's great to actually have lots of people from different areas come along to this. So I guess I'll, did you want me to share the screen now, or did you want me to say a little bit of who I am?
Yeah, you can share the screen now and keep talking, so
Yeah,
good as gold.
sure, no problem. So let me just bring the presentation up. Right. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I've just like this. Perfect. Right. Can everybody see the screen?
Looking good.
Looking good. Okay. So today we're here to learn a little bit more about understanding and measuring return on investment from social media. Now, a little bit about myself. I know Nick already mentioned. I run strategic partnerships for the company Attention Experts. We're the most 5-star rated social media agency on Facebook in Australia. And we're actually recently named 3rd on Yahoo Finance's top 10 Australian marketing agencies to watch in 2020. So we're very chuffed, actually. But beyond that, I guess we're more chuffed, I think, when we see clients actually grow and understand this medium so much better. One of the main focuses, I guess, in terms of what we do, yes, we're in the digital marketing space. But what you'd find actually under the digital marketing umbrella is you'll find specialists in different areas, and that just makes sense. It's kind of, I guess it's not too dissimilar to medicine, where you have specialist, I guess, branches or areas of expertise. So you'll have your Google AdWords or SEO experts. You've got your content strategists who work on your blogs and copywriting. You also have your creatives who work on your visuals, so your photography, your video, your animations, the things that visually connect you to your audience. And also you've got people like Nick Cree, which is awesome. The guys who understand how to actually build your digital shopfront, which is your website, and also to understand how to drive traffic to the website. So probably not going to go into the full scope of digital marketing, but social media is its own space. If there was a difference between, I guess, Google AdWords and SEO as opposed to social media, I would probably say it's as different as comparing a brain surgeon to a heart surgeon. And the reason why is because we're working with platforms that work on completely different algorithms. Anyway, before I get further into that, we'll just get started. So the agenda for today, as you can see, is pretty much, well, we're just going to cover, I guess, some of the most important or key elements of understanding how social media works.
Well, your slide hasn't changed over there, Sophia.
Oh, has it not?
Maybe pop it onto presenter view.
Presenter view. Okay, not a problem. Give me 2 seconds. 1 second.
Okay, we see your agenda now.
You can see it now. Okay.
Yeah, it's got.
I do
Looks like your presenter view is greyed out there at the moment.
Oh, strange. Okay, let me just try a new share and hopefully that will work. Could be that one actually. I'm just gonna go screen. Can you see that again?
It hasn't changed at all, but we can read your slide.
Okay, gotcha. Let me just try this. Can you see?
Ah, there we go. That's much better.
That better? Okay,
Yep.
not a problem. Okay, so if you can see, we're pretty much going to go through social media trends, the formula, I guess, for success on social media marketing, social media risks, I guess. You can definitely ask me questions, by the way, throughout this presentation, whether you do it through chat or comments, that's fine. And how to build brand value through social media, how to encourage and build engagement, how to build brand touch points. What are brand touch points? We can go through that as well. Facebook Pixel, I'm sure some of you might know what this is and some of you might not have heard of it. We'll be looking into why this is imperative actually to the success of your campaigns. Facebook and Instagram audiences, what are they? Why are they so important to your campaigns? LinkedIn, I will actually be answering questions on LinkedIn. I know that's a very common topic that a lot of people have questions about. And how the Facebook and Instagram algorithms actually work and why is it important for you to know this? And finally, how to formulate return on investment. So just a little bit about us. We've helped businesses grow, I think about 500 to about, so we've helped over 500 businesses across 20 industries grow essentially through social media. And we're not saying just organic, we're literally talking about, I guess, working collaboratively with business leaders and also business owners, and being able to actually understand what their business objectives are, what are the net business outcomes that we're going to be achieving, and actually creating a roadmap around that for social media. So that's pretty much really what we have. This is a little bit about our director. So this is kind of important because I know I'm a strategic partnerships manager, but it is important to understand who the entrepreneur or the business owner is behind our brand. George actually has been involved in digital marketing since 2008. He started off actually with a urban menswear label called Daniel Patrick. He launched it in the US on Facebook and Instagram, and it was a huge part of their promotion actually. They were lucky enough to have gotten those clothes or their collections onto celebrities like Usher, Will Smith, I guess the Kardashians, you name them, pretty much LeBron James, we're talking about those guys. And now they're a multi-million-dollar turnover business with stores in 4 countries. Now, once that was actually launched, George came back from the US and he came back to launch another business, like any other entrepreneur. You're never satisfied with just the one business opportunity. So he launched the world's actual pre-workout tea. So at the time he was looking for a natural, I guess, alternative to nutritional supplements. And I think around the time when he sold the business to a New Zealand company, it was actually doing about 273K in sales per month. And we'll go further into how he was able to do that. This was actually the business that pretty much helped him cut his teeth on social media and campaigns. And I guess one extra element that I should probably mention is that his background is actually a currency trader in Macquarie Bank. So he brings, I guess, the mathematics, or the data side to marketing that I think now it's so imperative, but I think before, historically, the marketing role used to be more focused on comms, and it might still actually be still the case quite a lot of the time, across industries. And so, when technology actually started to bring in these algorithms, there was a necessity, or there was a gap in the market, I guess, for people who truly understood, I guess, the combination, or the value of combining creative with data. Right. Oh, this is going. Let's see. Okay. So the outcome of this presentation, we just want to make sure that once we've finished, you have a better knowledge or better understanding of what it actually takes to produce a solid or successful social media campaign that produces a net return on investment. Would that be valuable to everyone? Yeah? Cool. That's good. Right, so next. Okay, so we'll just run through a couple of social media trends that we're seeing, or patterns that we're seeing currently. But first and foremost, I guess, before we even go there, we should probably look at why social media is so necessary. And a big part of that is, I guess, it's most businesses, or a lot of businesses, typically grow organically through referrals, or I guess people providing testimonials and those sorts of things. Word of mouth is essentially the end goal for any marketing campaign historically. So social media has changed the game in this way. It's pretty much opened the platform for people to have conversations across the world globally, and to share their experiences, with businesses or products, to people that they don't even know. So it's really opened up this, I guess, Pandora's box, really. And it's been good and bad. I'm sure everybody has an opinion on this. But yeah, people generally look to their peers when they're seeking new experiences, and we're actually seeing this across B2B and B2C industries. And also, it allows businesses, that are well presented, pretty much shine. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are obviously smaller businesses or disruptors in the industry that have been able to grow exponentially through social media, because there was a gap with the bigger companies, more established companies, who didn't have enough experience in it. And so this is actually a real, I guess, opportunity for a lot of small to medium businesses that might not have the kinds of budgets for your top of, above the line sort of advertising, like your television or radio or things like that. And finally, it allows the business to actually interact with their customers or their clients. And we know that, there is a statistic, and this is a pretty clear statistic from We Are Social, which is a global social media insights company. Users are going to be 66% more likely to do business with a business they can directly engage with. Now, why is social media needed for business and industry? So obviously there's new business marketing. It also improves customer relationships management, meaning the people in your space, the people who are already buying from you or doing business with you, part of that relationship build is done through social media. It also helps with online reputation management. So you probably find a lot of PR companies are actually pretty interested in social media. That would make sense. And this is actually the most important element of social media: database front of mind marketing and touch point marketing. And this is where the data really shines. And, this is where we need to, I guess, better understand how that works. So in terms of global stats, not global stats, Australian stats, which is better. Based on each platform, this is actually the monthly active users for each platform. If you can see, Facebook's at the top. And that would make sense, I guess, because Facebook pretty much leads the pack. They've been around 15 years before most of the other ones, essentially. Maybe not YouTube, but what's actually really important to note here is Facebook owns Instagram and WhatsApp. And if you look at the top four, at least three of the top four platforms, most used platforms in Australia, is actually, based on the underlying Facebook data platform, or ads platform is what we call it. So from a business owner's point of view, if we look at the majority of Australian, population on social media platforms, we are looking at the dominance, of Facebook and Instagram, of Facebook as the major player, or the most, sophisticated player in this space. If we look at LinkedIn, for example, I know a lot of people want to look at LinkedIn because it's a professional community. In terms of scale, we are looking at 5.5 mil monthly active Australian users as opposed to 17 mil. So as you can see, it barely sort of scratches the surface of the reach and the scope of Facebook. However, we love LinkedIn. I don't think there's any there's no value in LinkedIn. I think it's just really important to understand exactly the numbers that you're actually reaching, and to what sort of how each platform is positioned against each other. Are there any questions at this point?
I've got plenty, actually.
Sure, by all means.
How did George get from zero to hero without spending any money and without having somewhat of influence? I mean, how does he get the Kardashians to wear his singlet? I'd like to know.
Like yes, that. Actually, this is a really interesting story.
He did anything for nothing, right? I mean, he's got hundreds of thousands of dollars to actually to wear his stuff, because I'm sure they get thrown stuff every day.
So, yeah, gotcha. Yeah. This was actually a really interesting story. So the guy, so Daniel Patrick is the designer, and he was a creative, the entrepreneur, and George is the entrepreneur / integrator, essentially.
Okay, so the designer had a name already. Is that what you're saying?
What was that, sorry?
The designer had a name already. Is that what you're saying?
No, they were actually launching from scratch. So they had this, pilot sort of collection, and there was a leather jacket. And so they took that to the US to pretty much launch. They were at this bar actually in Greenwich Village, and I think downtown LA, or was it in New York? I don't remember anymore. And they happened to just bump into Ralph Lauren's head lawyer. They didn't believe him at the time, actually.
As you do.
Yes, you do. Yes. And so the next day, they go have a meeting with this guy, and it turns out he actually was the head lawyer for Ralph Lauren. And so they pretty much showed him the jacket. He went, okay, you need to speak to this guy. He owns the biggest men's urban wear store in LA. So they went over, met the guy, and they put the leather jacket on consignment on one of the, the models. And in comes Usher, and he literally puts on the jacket and walks out. And this like George and Daniel are both upstairs just watching, just going, what just happened? And this was literally around the time when Facebook had just acquired Instagram. Instagram was starting to really gain celebrity traction. And that's when they went, okay, we really need to start using this platform to actually tell everybody that this has happened. And that's actually how it grew. Obviously, there will be other parts of, the growth. It would have included other business development elements, but that's pretty much it. That's the story. I know it sounds really crazy, but
that sounds insane.
It is insane.
I mean, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I can't even get Facebook to reach more than 150 people.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to debunk, a little bit of that today. But yes, look, back to social media trends. And thank you so much for your question, by the way.
Hey, Nick, I think you should buy me a truck. I'm heading to LA, and I'm going to hit as many people as I possibly can.
Well, look, if you hit someone up, even if he's a celebrity, if he saw value in it, there'd be I don't think it would actually stop people these days to actually interact. But yeah, so when we look at, the users on Facebook, now that we've identified that Facebook has the most users, most active users in Australia. Let's look at the age demographics. So the majority that we're seeing, the highest numbers of active users or demographics would be from 25 to 39 and you're 40 to 55, right? With 6.1 mil, 4.1 mil. Now, bar the youngest, which is 13 to 17, and they're pretty much, that's usually the I guess the users that use TikTok, those sort of fun apps, and bar the elderly, which is 65 plus, not elderly, but I guess the older generations. We're looking at, I guess, a demographic of majority 25 to about 55-year-olds. And when you look at it from a disposable income point of view, and this is really important for a business owner, that's actually what you're looking at. So these are the guys that are going to have a disposable income for your products and your services. These are your decision makers. And this is really important. I think there's a lot of, it's important to note, because I think a lot of people look at Facebook and just assume that we're just going to get the whole, we're just going to go out to everyone on Facebook. That's just not how it works. It's important to understand those demographics and why Facebook is important, despite, I guess, for the B2B, I guess, providers in this particular space or this meetup. Yes, you have LinkedIn, but those guys are also between 25 to about 55 or 65. So to assume that they are not on Facebook, it would be blindsided, quite simply. We know for a fact that people are on cross-device and multi-platform. So if we, I guess, apply that logic, it just means that we can access them across different channels. Now, what's really funny is the fastest growing segment on Facebook, I should probably let you guess, but it's actually 65 plus. So your, I guess, grandparents, your great uncles, they're all jumping onto Facebook now, a little bit later on down the track, to keep up with their family, their friends overseas, that sort of stuff. So we're actually seeing a very fast growing segment here. There are further stats here, so let's just go beyond the stats. And this is another important thing. So I just want to clearly state that we actually don't get any money from Facebook. To pretty much demonstrate the growth of this. It's just important to note year-on-year growth. Now, I think it was around 2016 where there was a data breach, and there was a lot of talk about Facebook not, how it might affect or impact Facebook. It actually hasn't, as you can see. From 16 right through to 18 and to now, we've seen exponential growth, with continued growth with the platform. So we don't see it actually stopping the growth trajectory at this current moment. Now, if we look at the daily time spent on, I guess, any media device, we find that we're spending on average 5 hours and 4 minutes on the internet, right? But I guess if we compare that to how long we spend on social media on any device, that's 1 hour and 31 minutes. That's a lot. I mean, considering we're looking at an attention economy where people have probably the lowest rates of attention ever seen, the fact that social media is actually trumping television viewing, broadcast streaming, video on demand, it's trumping music streaming in terms of daily time spent. So look, I can continue talking about this, but I think you guys generally get the gist. Now, what's really important to note, especially if you guys are starting to do ads campaigns, is this is when you guys will have to start thinking about becoming mathematicians. The reason why is because the return on investment is actually not measured through followers. It's not measured through likes. It's not measured through your comments or shares. So to say, that's actually not the case at all. We've never seen a follower or like ever attribute to a business sale. It just simply doesn't work. I guess the easiest way to explain what a follow would be is if someone clicks on a follow, what they're saying to the business is, sure, I'll give you permission to send me more things. That's pretty much it. So how do we understand, I guess, actual interaction? It's not through, for clicks or likes or shares. So how can we do this? This is actually through the CTR, which is the click-through rate on Facebook ads. So if you're running a Facebook ad, you want to keep a close eye on your click-through rates, purely because that is an actual action. It's not a view. It's not an impression. It's someone that's actually taken the extra investment in their time to click through to whatever link that you've sent them to. So it could be your website, or it could be your blog, whatever it is, to further explore, what it is that you've got to demonstrate about your product or service. Now, click-through rate is typically calculated from your number of impressions as opposed to the number of clicks. That's what a click-through rate is. These are your industry averages. Now, if you can see, the highest one is 1.68%. So if you're doing 2% click-through rate, you're actually doing really well on Facebook ads. Whereas if it's anything lower, you're probably going to have to start looking at your ads and why it's not performing. Now, the industry benchmarks are important because that way you can see how all your competitors are doing. And there is also, I'll just type in actually another resource that's really important to know. It's called the Facebook Ads Library. So if you want to know whether your competitors are actually running ads too, you can look them up. So if you look up, I'm just going to quickly grab that link for you. 2 seconds. And in the meantime, by all means, jump in with any questions. Is there anybody else that has any questions so far? Nobody?
Just, I've just got a question while you're doing that. Those are industry average stats for click-through rate. So in terms of using those, I just sort of noticed that, say, for instance, finance is the lowest click-through rate.
Yeah.
So the difference between that there and, say, pets, or we know everybody loves cats anyway, so they're going to click through on cats and dogs. But is there any reason why there is that sort of difference? And is there anything we can do about that, sort of knowing what that reason is?
There's actually a lot of elements to that. If your click-through rate's not working, a lot of the time it could be that you haven't run your campaign for very long. So one of the most important things when you're first running an ads campaign is to properly, I guess, is to allow the platform, which is run on algorithms, which is an artificial intelligence, to learn more about your audience. And it takes some time for it to get there. And so if it hasn't quite gotten there, then it hasn't quite optimized your campaigns to the point where the click-through rates are higher. There is a lot more elements. I think we might need to probably look into answering that one-on-one. That it is a little bit more technical, I will have to say. There's a whole bunch of different elements with that. It could be something wrong with your organic content as well. If you haven't properly understood your audience, and when I say understand audience, I don't mean just to have brand personas, it's to actually understand whether your audience is engaging well with your content. And the best way to see that is click-through rates, because you've actually prompted an action. And if those rates are low, then you need to look at whether your organic content is actually affecting your click-through rates.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can everyone still see?
Yep, can see your slides.
Beautiful. Okay, cool. So yeah, so in terms of desktop versus mobile average time spent, we're looking at 2.5 seconds versus 1.7 seconds. But what we actually do find is that's quite interesting is that a lot of the time when you run organic posts or when you share, I guess, content, or more importantly, if you're running ads, the initial impressions might actually be collected off your mobile, but you'd find that the conversion might happen actually on your desktop. So it is important to run, I guess, to create websites, and hopefully, you might be able to ask Nick about this, to make sure that your website is optimized for both sides, because that's what's going to drive those conversions. Now, in terms of social media marketing, now this is really important. Look, I'm sure this has actually been communicated in different ways. We're definitely not the, I'm sure we're not the first ones to come up with this. What we're finding is that the best way to debug any of your social media campaigns is to understand whether these three elements are there. Now, an increase in brand value. So I guess the first thing probably we need to do is understand what brand value is the perceived value of your product or service. We all have had that objection where people have said, oh, it's too expensive, or it's too costly, I can't afford it. There are all the objections that are, I guess, that actually indicate to us that the value is not high with, the customer or the client. So we need to be curious about that. I guess if you're wanting to be curious about it, that's how, excuse my English. The best way to be curious about that is to get as much insight and data or information about your target client to properly, I guess, demonstrate value, in which case then that client will match that cost. Now, if we drive brand value, then naturally the engagement rates actually go up. So for example, maybe a brand, popular brand, let's say Adidas. Adidas is a very popular brand, for example. They've actually driven brand value for a very, very long time, for many, many years, which is probably why they get a lot more engagement than, let's say, someone, a new e-com clothes shop that's just started on Shopify. They'll take a bit of time before they get to the point of engagement. And there's a reason for this, because if the value hasn't been demonstrated for long enough, naturally those people or those audiences won't go straight to sales leads and inquiries. It just doesn't work that way. The higher the brand value, it will naturally lead to engagement, which means that your CTR rates will actually, I guess, increase. And that gives you an indication to you that it's working. And then from there, you can start looking at, I guess, sales leads and inquiries. It just naturally happens. Now, how quickly that process happens depends on how many brand touch points are being collected, or I guess created in the process. Now, if we wanted to build great brand value, how do we do that? Number one, it's great storytelling. So I guess when it comes to storytelling, one of the most important things to note is you don't have to be so crazy creative. You don't have to try to project an image or, I guess, look that, looks, I guess, slick or whatever it is. You don't actually need to do that. It's actually quite simple. You just need to tell the story of the journey from the customer to business and business to customer journey. That's it, quite frankly. Airbnb does this really well. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but I'll get into that in a little bit. I guess what I mean by, the story of the journey from customer to business is, what does it look like for me as a client or the customer to deal with the business? What does it look like when I first enter the business, when I open the door? Who's going to greet me? Who's going to talk to me? Who's the face behind, I guess, the table, the reception table? Who are the teams that I have to deal with? And what does it look like to actually work with this business? It's the same thing for products as well. It's just demonstrating how, what it would look like for me to be the client or the customer. And there's so many different ways you can tell that. The other side of the angle is the business to customer journey. So I'm not sure if you've seen a lot of, recent campaigns. They try to give you, I guess, like a behind the scenes look into what the business actually goes through to deliver the product or the service to the client or customer. Now, on social media, naturally has to be done consistently and aesthetically. Now, there are a lot of platforms, and as Nick mentioned before, there's a platform called Canva that can help you do that. So you don't have to be a graphics designer to be able to consistently and aesthetically tell a story. And you don't have to be a photographer to do that, at least to start off with. And if you want to build towards higher production value, that's great. But from a business point of view, you'd be best to start off with your resources, the resources that you have, leverage them first, test them and see how well engaged they are. And then from there, you can start looking at, I guess, adding extra elements, bells and whistles, that sort of thing. We found that most, I guess, storytelling or ad campaigns, or sorry, I guess storytelling campaigns or overall brand story campaigns typically require 90-day communication cycles. So if you're looking at, I guess, the content calendar for your business, that would be, I guess, our, advice to you is to run it for 90 days. So a content calendar actually encompasses the daily content that you would actually post on a daily basis, but it encompasses on a month. And then each month you want to assess what's going on. However, in terms of the data that you can actually get from the ad campaigns, you want to look at those performance numbers or metrics at the end of every 90-day cycle. And the reason why is because 90 days is long enough and short enough to have a good, strong test case to properly assess whether this campaign was successful or not. The other thing as well is, I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware, but your organic posts only go out to about 8 to 11% of your following, which is why your followers, which is why follower numbers are not great measurements for return on investment. So on average, we're talking about, if you had 1,000 followers, about 80 to 110 of them will actually see your organic posts. I'll let that sink in. And this is the reason why you would ideally want to run ad campaigns. And the reason why is because you won't actually get the full scope or the full capabilities of the platform from a data perspective or from an insights perspective or from, I guess, the targeting perspective, unless you're an advertiser on the platform. Yes? Do we have a question?
Yeah. Yeah. What percentage did you say would see the posts?
8 to 11% on average.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's okay. Like, look, it depends, I guess. We have seen some, I guess, Facebook profiles or business not profiles or business pages that have higher, but typically it's because they have, I guess, they've built that brand value over time. And so that's a little bit of a different story. Yeah, it depends on how well your page is being engaged with, but across all industries and across all the businesses that we've seen on Facebook, on average, you're looking at 8 to 11%. The highest we've seen actually is 20%, which is still very low. And it's still, I guess, hopefully eye-opening to all of you guys. When you're sharing posts to your followers, I would imagine there'll be a percentage of people that assume that it goes out to everybody. Quite frankly, it doesn't, unfortunately. I guess part of that reason, the reason for that actually is Facebook's way of delivering value to its advertisers. And that's important to note. The currency, I guess, of the Facebook or any social media platform is to keep their audiences engaged, and so they reward businesses that help them do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I hope that makes sense. So the case study for Airbnb, that specifically demonstrates, I guess, the customer to business and business to customer journey. So what Airbnb does really well is they focus on telling the brand story. So they don't really focus on who the CEO is or who who first started the company. The only thing they highlight are customer stories. So naturally, it was a very difficult concept, I would imagine, as a mad disruptor of the industry, of the accommodation industry. And it's not an easy sell. They were trying to sell ask people to essentially rent out their private space to somebody they don't know, a complete stranger, and vice versa. So that's why I guess it was important for them to tell the story, to actually demonstrate what that looks like, and how I guess enriching it was for a lot of people. So, you know, for example, Michael went to Andrew's house. Andrew greeted Michael warmly, welcomed him. He even cooked him spaghetti bolognese at dinner. And Michael had an amazing stay at Andrew's place, and he's left a review. Jonathan, you know, met Tessa, I guess, you know, through Airbnb. They ended up, I guess, becoming good, you know, great friends. Tessa's from Switzerland, Jonathan's from Norway, and now they each have international friends, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just one, I guess, example of how you can curate that business to customer and customer to business journey. So social media engagement. So what is it? How do we actually define engagement? Engagement is the process of having the audience touch your brand or posts. This could be through likes, shares, comments, link clicks. These are, I guess, link clicks are actually known as silent engagement. And I guess there's a difference between silent engagement and overt engagement. So overt engagement is the kind of engagement that other people can see, your friends or your networks. They can see that you've commented. They can see that you've shared it on your page or to a friend. These sorts of public projections or public reactions, they're not exactly the most authentic when it comes to a person's, I guess, inclinations. I give this example a lot, actually. It's quite funny, but I'm, let's just say, William or Mark. And actually, I'll just use the name Mike. Okay, so my name is Mike. And I want to show everybody that I'm really hipster and, you know, I'm kind of cool and artsy. I go to like art exhibitions. I'm more likely to probably share, I guess, podcasts or videos of more artsy things because that's how I want to look. And we all know that, you know, social media has a certain vanity element to it. And so I will share, you know, I would probably, you know, I guess like my networks and my friends probably think that my favorite artist is Florence and the Machine because it's soulful. And so a lot of those overt interactions that I have on Facebook, that could actually attribute to what I would aspire to be. However, my dirty inclination or my dirty secret is that I really like Taylor Swift, for example. I do apologize for all the fans of Taylor Swift in this meetup. But no one would have actually expected that I would go to a Taylor Swift concert. They probably thought that I would have bought a Florence and the Machine concert ticket. However, if we looked at the silent engagement, what I'm actually clicking on that I'm not sharing, as a business owner, that's what I'm interested in because that's actually what's going to lead to a sale. So if I was Michael, which concert ticket would I have bought? Would I have bought the Florence and the Machine concert ticket, or would I have bought the Taylor Swift concert ticket? This is important. I guess, you know, it sort of highlights, I guess, you know, historically, a lot of marketing departments used to use focus groups. And even that wasn't as problematic because people, you know, would say one thing, but they would act another. And so to understand engagement rates from a silent engagement point of view, you're looking at implicit reactions, and that's where the authentic engagement lies. And the only way you can actually get that information typically is through reading the click-through rates or the data behind ad campaigns, so you can have the truthful understanding of who your audience is. And engagement actually is the basis of everything that we measure in social media, and it will really determine whether a campaign is successful or not. Now, social media platforms use engagement as a measure as to whether a post, article, or piece of content is relevant or not. So we have these algorithms on social media, and their job is to make sure that the content, every content, whether it's a personal content, whether it's business related content, is relevant to its audience. And the reason why, and you probably would have seen this actually, if you clicked on a piece of, if you clicked on, I guess, makeup, you'll start to actually receive more makeup related content. If you like cars, then, based on your interests and your behaviors on the platform, you'll start receiving more information or more, I guess, options about cars. This is actually how social media networks make money. That's how they actually, remain relevant, and that's how they justify, I guess, their business to their shareholders. So for them, I guess, their audience, their biggest asset, and who they actually give access to the audience is, I guess, the algorithms are based on, what's the word? Oh, sorry, I can't explain this very well. The algorithms pretty much on a day-to-day basis are always assessing whether your business content is going to be relevant to their audiences, to ensure that the audiences are constantly kept happy, so they won't move to a different platform. But the advertisers are also continually, I guess, working on themselves to improve the content and to remain relevant.
Oh, Sophia, I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
Your microphone, is that, have you got a microphone that sort of might be scratching up against your clothes or something? It just seems to be a bit,
Oh, is it really scratchy?
yeah.
Oh, no. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's strange. Okay, so, right. So what creates engagement on social media in 2020? Apologies for that. So it's either controversy or inspiration. So you'll actually find this a lot. Disruptors, obviously, something that's completely opposite to what you'd expect. I guess an example of this actually would be Koala Mattress. So what they did was they did a social media video of a wine glass on one of their mattresses and people jumping on it. And the wine glass pretty much remains standing stock still. And that was controversial because it's not something that you often see with mattresses. So controversy doesn't have to be crazy. It just has to be slightly, I guess, different from your normal expectations, or it exceeds your normal expectation. Obviously, there are politicians, certain politicians in the US that use controversy really, really well. So naturally, I think most businesses tend towards the conservative side. So the opposite, well, not the opposite, but the other spectrum of controversy would be inspiration. So you'll probably find a lot of those memes about how to improve yourself, or memes about investing, or memes about growing your mindset, that sort of thing. And the other thing as well is, because social media platforms, like the content that's actually shared is all in real time, it's important to be relevant with the times. So you might have, an example, I guess, of this would be your Black Lives Matter movement. It was highly, highly important for a lot of big brands to be part of this movement. And I think it was, I guess it's probably more towards the branding side, but it's important to actually take part in these movements to give, from the business point of view, their response to current states of affairs or current news. And it's the same thing as well, like if you're sharing COVID updates, that's being relevant. That's actually, trying to, I guess, encourage further conversation about what's actually important to people right now. And I guess the final thing is value. So if what you're sending out there isn't valuable, then there's really not much, there's not much money or production value that can possibly do justice to something that's not valuable, unfortunately. So best practice for posts, we can look at this. So when we look at this, so the first post that is being sent out to people, they typically don't get a lot of attention. So you just need to, I guess, grab grab attention within 1 to 2 lines. You want a graphic that obviously captures attention with, through the story. And if it's on Instagram or Facebook, tag at least another profile. Usually it helps actually to tag, a bigger brand possibly, because a lot of the time the bigger brands or public brands typically have a full marketing team. They'll be very excited by this, and so that they'll actually reshare or repost your content, and then create relevant hashtags for Twitter and Instagram. So these are kind of, examples. We don't really go further into detail with content half so much, because the most important thing is when you do send out content, you need to understand whether it's going out. So if you're not at that point, then it's a little bit hard to focus on this. Any questions so far? Anyone?
Nope, I'm good so far.
Cool, easy. Yeah, so,
Good.
yeah.
It's good.
Kathy, all right, good, sure. All right. I'm just going to skip through a lot of this purely because we can talk further. I think it's a little bit hard to talk about content because every business has different types of content. So it's a little bit hard to just have a holistic, advice for it beyond the customer to business or business to customer journey. If you wanted to talk about your specific content posts, I can go through that with you one-on-one. Now, a content calendar looks like this. I'm not sure, how many people have actually created one? Can we get like a sort of chat room show of hands? How many people already have a content calendar? Say yes or no as a response. No, yep, got it. 2 no's, yes.
40.
Goodness, wow. Got it. So we're looking at about 4 or 5 no's, 3 yeses, oh, more no's. Gotcha. We're going, oh, there we go. So a content calendar is important, and why is it, important and useful is, as a business owner, let's all be real, you don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of resource. So the only way, to work around that is you need a framework and have clear pillars to collect content. Now, if you don't have an internal marketing manager or an internal content person to do this, there is something that you can do. You can actually get anyone else across your staff to take part in the content process. It doesn't take long. It takes a second to take a photo throughout the day, just showing what it looks like as a business, the business customer journey, as I mentioned before. What does it look like for the business to deliver that service or product? What are the faces behind the business? Who are the team members? I think that's a very, overlooked aspect of a lot of the content. We are also looking at other things you can always share. So business value points in simple format, highlight your experience as a business, your story. So it's kind of similar to, George's story of going from 0 to hero, thank you for, I think Martin it was, who mentioned that. That story is important too. People want to know the human side of a business. And also, informative or educational posts. Other people will call this thought leadership, but this is also important too because you want to also engage your industry with your business, not just your clients. If you engage the industry, then you'll find that you'll start looking at attracting potential partners as well, referral partners, because they agree or engage with what you have to say about a particular industry issue, or it could be something about your expertise. And it really establishes you as a leader in your field as well, and it shows that you know what you're talking about. Previous successes are really important. Success stories, your customer testimonials, These are really good, actually. If you can get some of your clients or customers to take a video of themselves and actually say to camera why they love what you do, then that's really amazing. And we know for a fact those videos typically get the most amount of engagement. So that's going to be very useful to your campaigns. And I guess the feel good inspirational. So I guess for this one, we're trying to go not controversial, because we know for a fact probably majority of you won't probably go the controversial route. So you can go the inspirational route. What does it look like to succeed? What does the product or service help you, in your journey to succeed? And a success obviously means a lot of different things to people, but it could be just happiness. It could be more time on your hands. It could be, I guess, engaging more with your family and friends, being able to buy a car, whatever it is. What does it look like when your product or service has helped or solved this client or customer's problem? So we're just going to quickly, I guess, look at the Facebook and Instagram algorithm and why it's important. Who knows what an algorithm is? Can anyone try to define what an algorithm is?
Give it a crack. It is the calculation or the system trying to identify combinations between 2 points.
Close, very, very close. It is similar. Should I have anybody else?
It's what Facebook and Instagram put out when they want to, every time they want to change things, or their objectives change, or how their objectives change, or what they want to see, they change the back end. So therefore, the portal that you go down changes as well, of what's relevant, what's not, what they like, what they don't like. Yeah, so they're constantly changing that on us.
Yeah, that's fair. That's actually really close as well. I love this one. Nick's like, that mysterious thing that the platforms won't reveal that decides how to show you content. That's also very close. I think in terms of definition, direct definition of an algorithm is actually a set of rules. So there's a whole bunch of rules on each social media platform that determines how to show your content and to whom. So you guys all got it right, pretty much. I guess the simplest, I've just provided the most simple way to explain it. That's it. There's definitely more to that. And why is this important? So Zuckerberg in 2018 made an announcement about the algorithm. This is the first time there was this kind of announcement. And I believe it was post the Cambridge Analytica scandal. So this is the most actually important paragraph of that announcement. So as we roll this out, you'll see less public content like posts from businesses, brands, and media. And the public content you see more will be held to the same standard. It should encourage meaningful interactions between people. This is a real highlight. Pages making posts that people generally don't react to or comment or could see the biggest decreases in distribution. So he announced this in 2018. Can anyone guess why he announced it, or why it was timed around this period of time? Thanks, Debbie. Can anyone guess?
Something to do with politics?
Close. Yeah, similar. I'll be quick. Sorry, anyone else?
I was just going to say, to stop people moving over to Instagram and other platforms and stop it looking like an advertising news feed, and get back to it being relevant for people and an experience that they would enjoy when they're being on there.
Okay. I'll tell you actually the real reason. The real reason is it was actually around in 2018 when Facebook first announced its IPO. So when it announces an IPO, they have investors. They need to start monetizing the platform. to justify, obviously, the investment for shareholders. And the only way they could do that is to obviously use it convert it into an advertising platform. That's the first time they've introduced algorithms to ensure that the distribution is then, I guess, is then reflected as a result. And you're right, you guys are all right in that sense though. The idea was provide further value to advertisers, but it doesn't mean that you see less posts from business and brands and media. They've just created a set of rules to discourage irrelevant or I guess posts that are not being reacted to or commented on. They decrease distribution on that because they know that it's not being engaged with. And we were just talking about engagement as the most important measurement. If your posts are not being engaged with, and engaged with meaning those click-through rates, the click-throughs or what is it, link clicks and all those things. If that's not being, if that's not happening, then yeah, then that actually directly affects your distribution on the platform. Does that make sense? So it doesn't matter how much you spend on photography or whether you've got beautiful pieces of art. The algorithms are simply artificial intelligence. They only read engagement rates. They actually don't look at content pieces as from artistic merit. They simply look at whether it's being engaged with or it's not. Yeah, cool. Did everyone understand that? Cool.
Yep, all good.
All good? Yes.
No.
Okay. Right. So I guess Facebook and Instagram algorithms, why is it important? So it's the businesses who succeed on Facebook and Instagram, they're usually the ones that are, I guess, telling their story in lots and lots of different ways. And you don't have to be massively creative, as I said before, to do that. You just need to engage as many of the stakeholders to be part of that story. It really is a movement. There's a reason why big movements happen on social. The businesses who are interested in their audiences and actually want to collect data about their audiences to understand better about how their content is, I guess, is resonating on the platform, they're the ones who are going to succeed. The businesses who are ready to engage with their audiences, they're willing to actually comment back. They're willing to actually take on feedback. Those businesses are going to succeed on social media. And I guess moving forward, I think the businesses that are most successful at the data collection side are going to succeed the most, because that's actually the, I guess, first step in terms of getting to know their audiences better. And what's really interesting to note as well is that, as much as we know that Facebook owns Instagram and, WhatsApp and that sort of thing, Facebook Messenger also collects a lot of data, as I'm sure you're aware. And all of these principles actually apply across all these platforms. Pretty much real-time data is being collected on all these active users across the Facebook network. So Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Messenger. So all that data being collected real time, you're actually using that to get better information or better understanding of your audiences. Being an advertiser actually allows you to do that or take full advantage of those tools. And that's why this is really important to understand. And as I mentioned before, content coverage, organic content only goes out to 8 to 11% of your followers. In terms of frequency of posting, that's one of the most common questions I get. You get the ideal number is 5 to 7 times a week. So I would say daily. Don't boost anything from your Facebook page or your Instagram page. This is a pet peeve of mine. And the reason why is because I guess that boost button is actually to grab immediate or short-term attention. You're not able to collect databases in the back end for this. It's just a simple, quick attention grab. And for Facebook, it's a simple, quick money grab, essentially. So if you want to run advertising campaigns, you need to do it on the back end of your Facebook Business Ads Manager. So I'll go, I guess we are kind of running out of time. So I'm afraid I can't probably cover a lot of this stuff. And I'm happy to actually cover it further one-on-one with you guys if you want to reach out. And I'm sure I can communicate it better. I think I'm a little bit nervous today because I want to make sure that I'm delivering correctly. I'm so sorry, Nick. I'm terrible.
You're doing absolutely fine. There's been some great information in here tonight, so it's been awesome.
I hope so. And feel free to take screenshots and that sort of thing. I'm terrible with public speaking.
Yeah, never say you're nervous because you certainly didn't come across that way.
Oh, good. So bear with me. Thank you.
Never say you're nervous. No one knows. Only when you tell them.
I promise I'm better one-on-one. Definitely better one-on-one.
Great
Yes.
job. Great job.
So the Facebook Pixel, I'll quickly cover what that is. So it's a piece of cookie. It's a cookie, which means it's a piece of code that you put into the back end of your website. And what it allows you to do is that it collects anyone and everyone that lands on your website. So let's just say you're not an advertiser on LinkedIn and you can't at the moment, I guess, take advantage of the LinkedIn's ads, advertising sort of capabilities. Facebook's obviously a lot cheaper. So as an advertiser on Facebook, you're able to install pixels. And if you install a pixel, essentially it means that any content piece that you share or you might be running an ad with those content pieces. If they're directing traffic to your website, that traffic will be collected into a backend database. So you can create multiple databases of the people that are coming from different, I guess, sources of traffic. This is really important because right now with your website, if you don't have a Facebook pixel on your website right now, there is no way of understanding where they're coming from. There is no way of collecting them for further marketing purposes beyond if they happen to decide to actually subscribe to your emails or newsletters or your blogs. But that's their choice, right? Whereas a Facebook pixel can easily pick that up and create a database for you. And when I say database, I mean the Facebook profile ID, which is actually attributed to a name, email, number anyway. So you still have the opportunity, I guess, to demonstrate further value to this Facebook or Instagram audience to further come down your funnel into your internal CRM. At a point where they feel like you're a valuable business, they will become leads. So the audiences that you can actually collect with the Facebook pixel are these. Anyone who lands on your Facebook or Instagram pages, any engagement, so your followers, shares, likes, all of them. We can collect video views, as I mentioned before, if you have a 35-second or 20 to 35-second video of a customer raving about your product. Anyone who's seen more than 3 seconds of that video will be automatically collected into a video views audience. Facebook events, so registrations, people who said yes or no, people who've actually even landed on the event page, we can collect databases of those. Your email newsletter, I guess, email lists, you can actually plug that into the back end of your Facebook Business Ads Manager and create a duplicate database of I guess, matching Facebook IDs and start marketing out to those guys as well. And depending on how well segmented your email lists are, that's when you're starting to look at really personalizing your messaging. And as I mentioned before, your website visitors. So the LinkedIn Insight tag is actually very similar to what the Facebook Pixel does. So the thing about LinkedIn, now advertising on LinkedIn is a lot more expensive than Facebook and Instagram. So I guess if you're a small to medium business, it is a little bit difficult to, I guess, get into that. The one way I will tell you is probably the easiest way to circumvent that is if you're doing organic posting, so the unpaid stuff on LinkedIn, if you add your relevant links back to your website or back to your Facebook pages or your Facebook, Instagram pages, you can then use a Facebook pixel to collect those databases and those audiences anyway. So you're not missing out on the LinkedIn capabilities if you can't afford LinkedIn advertising. There is a workaway around that, and I can actually give you further information on how to do that. Now, the end goal of every marketing campaign is word of mouth. As you know, you guys all know, it's really about brand advocacy. You want people to, you know, I guess authentically say or understand the true value of what you do, your products or your services. And social media is a great way to start that conversation and continue that conversation. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. That's it, is it?
Yep, that's it.
Fantastic. Oh, that was an awesome presentation. There's heaps of great value in there, and I'm been madly typing away to Lorena and JM here, shooting in some ideas that we need to get cracking with as well too. So, so some of the things that, or four key takeaways for me was that that customer to business and business to customer stories. Thought that was a really good way of sort of thinking about how you do your posting. Controversy and inspiration. I'm into controversy and inspiration. Posting 5 to 7 times a week. So one of the comments I often hear is that people say, you know, I don't want to be posting too much, but 5 to 7 a week is great. And don't boost. I'm always telling people not to boost. So again, to hear that again was awesome. So yeah, so anyone's here, feel free to post your comments in the chat there. What was the standout for you tonight? And while we're doing that, we do have a prize draw tonight, don't we? So I think now, have you got something to offer us tonight? Is it a consultation or something? Is it?
Yes, I do. So I can do a 30-minute to 1 hour actually consultation with anybody that wants to, I guess, properly understand whether their social media campaigns are working. If you haven't, you know, I think that there was a lot of people who didn't have a content calendar, so that definitely seems to be a common thing. So happy to also discuss that and how you can create a content calendar based on what you have. Or maybe you might have ideas about what you want to actually create. So there are all things I can help you with. But for one person, I'm happy to give one full hour of my time.
Fantastic. Excellent. All right. Well, we've got a unique way of drawing that tonight. Who here needs some help? Just put your hand up if you think you could do with some help with Sophie on the social media. Excellent. Yeah.
Martin. Thanks, Martin.
All right, so so we've got a unique way of drawing it, which we have the wheel of names, which you should be able to see up on the screen. We've got everybody's name in there, and we'll spin the wheel. And as always, the winner actually has to be present in the room to win. If they're not here, they've taken off early, then we redraw. All right, well let's spin it and see who's our lucky winner for tonight. And the winner there is James. So is James actually here tonight? He is in fact here tonight still. So actually James is in Singapore.
Oh wow, that's great.
So so what we'll do is if maybe James, if you pop your email address into chat there to Kathy, but we'll connect. To Sophia. We'll connect you up anyway, and then we can organise that there. But for everybody else, how do they get in touch with you if they want to have a chat with you?
Yes, I've just put in a link to my LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me on that. I'm also going to, put in my mobile number and my email. So feel free, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer. Individual questions that are specific to your business. I'm happy to do that as well. So I'll leave my number and my email.
Excellent, fantastic. All right. Well, look, thanks very much for your presentation and sharing tonight. You've obviously got a heap of knowledge and a heap more than you can fit on all the PowerPoint slides for tonight.
Definitely not.
So yes, everyone feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. A couple of other announcements for this week as well. As always, tomorrow we have office hours, which is a free-for-all well, not quite free for all, but it's a free discussion about anything to do with social media. So probably tonight's topic has provided some thoughts that we can have a chat about tomorrow. So bring along a coffee or I was going to say a beverage of your choice, but it's only 10 o'clock in the morning for me, so feel free to bring whatever you like. And we don't have a presentation, there is no agenda, it's just the questions and that you bring along, and we have some really interesting discussions on that. So that's 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The link is in chat for you to go and register for that. And the other one is that on Saturday at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, some of you were here, was it last week or the week before, I think, when Paul, who's on the session today, was talking about his business. And but some people were interested in knowing a bit more about the content of the business as opposed to running the business. And the content of the business was Forex trading and understanding how that might work in the context of an ordinary person being able to do it as opposed to having to have a whole lot of financial knowledge. So so Paul runs a very good educational program for people wanting to understand and learn more about foreign exchange trading. It's not just Forex, but that's the name for it. So on Saturday at 10 a.m. is a webinar that he and I will be hosting for those that want to understand a wee bit more about that. So we'll drop the link into chat. In fact, we've dropped the Zoom link into chat. So feel free to save that and come along and join us. It's only for an hour on Saturday, but it'll give you some understanding as to how that all works. All right, well, I think that's it for tonight. Remember, everyone, to save the chat. And you do that by clicking the three dots on the bottom right-hand side of the chat. It's got all the links in it, all the comments that you might want to catch up with other people as well. So we'll be here again next week, next Tuesday at 6 o'clock as well. So thanks again, Sophia, for agreeing to come along and sharing with us tonight all of your information.
Thanks for having me, seriously. It's so good to meet everybody.
All right, and look forward to seeing those of you that turn up tomorrow. Seeing you tomorrow. Those who can make it on Saturday, look forward to seeing you there. And otherwise, we'll see you again next week. All right, we'll see you all again.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Thanks, Sophia.
Thanks.